Hey guys, it's EDDBUD, and today I'm back with a comparison video between the Saucony Endorphin Pro and the Asics Metaracer. So two of the big running shoe names have finally landed their performance race shoes for the world to try out. Which is the best in out-and-out performance, and what do you need to know before making a purchase? You're in safe hands here with EDDBUD and his knowledgeable viewers in the comments. Let's get to it. Let's start with the upper. So upper-wise, the scientists at Saucony and Asics have been hard at work concocting a real treat, with both of these shoes having super light uppers. The Saucony's got a little more padding in the back of the heel area, while the Asics has got some softer padding which leads right up to the fastening area of the shoe. Neither of these two shoes has a conventional heel counter, but I'd suggest the Metaracer has a little bit more rigidity in the heel. It's only a hair more inflexible though than the Saucony. Saucony have opted for these overlays to provide a little bit of structure to that very light upper. The mesh upper on the Saucony is incredibly soft. It really is very comfortable on foot. Asics have gone for a more simple design without any sort of structural overlays. It's just mesh here throughout the upper. Both of these shoes are extremely breathable, although of course that is a bit of a two-edged sword. I would suggest the Asics has a slight advantage over the Saucony with its vented ports at the rear of the shoe and of course at the front. Would be an ideal day actually to test out the water venting properties of the Metaracer, because it's basically been raining all day and it shows no signs of stopping whatsoever. I think we had the driest May on record or something in the UK. Certainly June has been pretty serious for rain. The vent's just crying out for me to get out there. I think Miss EDDBUD would really think I flipped my lid if I head out for a second run today in this rain. It's not nice out there. That's not to say that the Endorphin Pro isn't breathable also. Very vented shoes for a more civilised age. These race buddies though are all about the midsole and the outsole, with the Metaracer at 239 grams in my UK size 11 and the Endorphin Pro at 255 grams. There's not an awful lot in it. Most of the weight is in the midsole and the outsole materials of these two shoes. I think they're about as comfortable and light as you're going to get for racing options, and because of that I'm going to call it a tie on upper. Midsole next. Midsole is always my favourite part of a comparison video. There's just so many to sample, so many to taste. Don't worry, I don't actually eat the shoes, that would just be weird. I mean, I'm quite weird, but I'm not that weird. So midsoles are where the big differences are really in the shoes. They both do rely on that rolling action. Everyone's into rolling these days. I'm surprised that they haven't signed up that band from the 90s that did that song that said, "Keep rolling, rolling, rolling." They should do that. Was it Limp Bizkit? Was it them? I think that may not actually be a very good idea at all. Ignore that. The midsole and outsole on both of these shoes, that's quite a pronounced lift. I've measured it actually, and the front 9 or 10 centimetres of the shoes are actually off the ground. So you are sort of walking on air in a way. Some of you are going to find that a little unnatural and perhaps even odd, though fans of the Evo ride or the Glide ride, and to the same degree the Triumph 17, will be primed and ready to enjoy this dessert of energy-saving goodness. Using the scientific touch test, I can say that the rubber here in the front section of the Metaracer does appear to be a slightly different formula. Feels a little harder, doesn't have quite so much give to it. Certainly the flight foam in the Metaracer feels nice and forgiving on foot, not perhaps quite as much as the foam utilised within the Endorphin Pro, that Power Run PB. There's a real sandwich of foam here within the Endorphin Pro. I believe the plate positioning within the Metaracer is slightly different. I think it's a lot closer to the outsole. That Metaracer certainly feels a little bit more bendable at the back. It's certainly not a full length plate within that Asics shoe. I would suggest that the Endorphin Pro's got a slightly wider surface area in terms of the midsole. Kind of cups around your foot a little bit more than the Metaracer. In fact, you can see here that the foam actually bellows out a little bit. It's kind of like bell-like, I suppose. I think it provides a slightly more stabilised bed for your foot to sit in. So I think the Endorphin Pro provides a little bit more of a cushioned, forgiving ride versus the quite exciting and low to the ground feel of the Metaracer. I think that some people will prefer the lower stack height here in the Asics shoe. But for me, in terms of midsole, I think I'm leaning slightly more towards the Saucony Endorphin Pro. So I'll give that the crown for midsole. We're going to talk outsoles now. The outsoles of these two different race shoes are actually very different, with some real variation in the implementation of the rubber. Believe it or not, I've actually found that the Metaracer has got slightly better traction than the Endorphin Pro. If those rather shallow trenches hang in there on the bottom of the outsole of the Metaracer, I see no problems whatsoever with this outsole. I think it could be very durable. That's my only real worry here, is that they are quite shallow. If you sort of push away at the outsole here, you can actually feel where the plate kind of splits apart. It splits around about 11 centimeters down from the front of the shoe. That XT rubber though on the outsole of the Saucony still demonstrates some really good durability, solid traction. I guess the other worry is the large amount of exposed midsole foam that you've got here in the Endorphin Pro. There's far less of that midsole exposed in the Metaracer, and with that in mind, and with its slightly better traction than the Saucony Endorphin Pro, I'm going to give the crown for outsole to the Metaracer. So it's a tie and a crown each at the moment as we move into value. So there's about £10 in it, with the Metaracer at £180 and the Saucony Endorphin Pro available at £190. I say available, I don't think either of those shoes are currently stocked anywhere right now. Hopefully they will be producing them like maniacs so they can get them out there to people and capitalise on what appears to be really weird production problems that Nike currently has. They just don't seem to be able to get shoes in stock quick enough. Somebody even mentioned that there was another Vaporfly drop the other day. Just another small batch of shoes. It's very strange. I gotta say straight off the bat that I think both of these shoes are really good quality, well put together items. I was really impressed with the little tubes that came in the Saucony Endorphin Pro to hold up that very light and flexible upper, keeping them in shape while they were in the box. It's a nice little touch, I like it. And that Metaracer is equally as well put together. No stray glue marks here, or poor stitching, or ill-fitting insoles. You know, I get a lot of shoes and when you take them out of the box sometimes you're like, seriously? But both of these were really, really nice straight out of the box. Feels like there's some care been put into them. Yes, both shoes are at the top end of the spectrum, and you would really expect a decent quality shoe for that money. That's kind of why I think that most people are going to probably opt for the Saucony Endorphin Pro. I think it's got a broader mass appeal. It's got a more do-it-all type of nature. I think in terms of value here, where people might be a little afraid to use a race shoe outside of racing due to perhaps durability concerns, that this one probably presents slightly better value. So at that slightly higher price point, I think the Saucony actually takes the value crown. I think it's a more versatile shoe than the Metaracer, as I feel that a lot of runners out there will want something that they can use on a more daily basis, perhaps not on a daily basis, but they can get this one out the box and get something out of it even though they're not racing right now. That aside, some will love the super lightweight nature of the Metaracer, perhaps getting it in mind of higher paced racing later on in the year or next year perhaps. If they're looking to hit their top target speeds, I think that the Metaracer could be the one people go for. I think it's a superb shoe still if you want to go for that very lightweight, race flat type feel. Certainly does feel quite different on foot to the Endorphin Pro. So 1 crown to the Metaracer, 2 for the Saucony, and 1 draw. So I think that does kind of crown the Saucony the master of this comparative test. Obviously some of these things are just my opinions on the shoes. I do try and explore different avenues rather than just my own needs and requirements from a running shoe. Let me know your opinions, thoughts and views on these two superb racing shoes down in the comments, guys. A quick musical interlude for you. What the Toll Tells by the Two Gallants. Los Cruces Jail is a fantastic track on this, and I did manage to actually see this group live back in the noughties sometime in Southampton. It's a tiny little venue. These guys are just drums and guitar, and a super set. If you do get to check them out, kind of sound folky bluegrass, but with a real character again to the recordings. A very interesting group. Go and check them out, the Two Gallants. Okay, that's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching through to the very end of the video. I do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and click the bell for notifications of when I launch those new videos. It really does help the channel out massively if you hit that like button and also share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you